Hello, it's Thursday. It's horrible rain out there. We're going to do some back bends. Hope you're all doing okay at the moment. So make sure you've got a nice bit of space around you. If you have got a yoga mat, that's absolutely wonderful because it means that your feet are nicely grippy on the floor and you're not going to slide anywhere. And if you can you do this in bare feet? And I'm just taking my socks off now because I still had my socks and slippers on. So make sure you've got lots of nice space around you, and let's just give our toes a little wriggle. And we're going to do some back bends today. We're going to start off with some gentle ones and then turn them into bigger and bigger back bends, because back bends are all about opening up the front of your body so that you feel good inside. When we're feeling a bit low, we kind of tend to do this with our bodies and hunch up and sort of think, I want the world to go away. But when we're doing back bends, it makes everything feel wonderful. So the first sort of back bend we're going to do is on our hands and knees. And I have a cat in here, and my cat has gone, which is really annoying because this is actually called cat pose. So let's just give our hands a little pad. If you have cats, you know this is the sort of thing that cats do when they're happy. So I've got our hands nicely on the floor, and just check that your knees, you've got a gap between your knees, and then we're going to be hissing cats when we round up to the ceiling, and then when we do our back bend, we're going to lift our tails up, lift our heads up, and arch our backs like happy cats. So you can do a nice hissing noise like this for an angry cat, hiss. And then when you lift your tail and your head, you can be a purring cat. I'm not very good at purring noises. That's as good as it gets. I think I'm more like a horse when I do that. That if you can make better purring noises than me, then please go for it. So we're going to go hiss when we're rounding up, hiss. And then we'll lift our tails up. You've got to imagine you've got a nice long cat tail. Lift your head and go. I told you I'm rubbish at purring. And it's a shame because there's always someone in a class who's better at purring than me, so I'm sorry that I can't see you doing it. But if you put a message in the comments, I will try and get through them all and say hello to everybody. Oh, lovely. And then when I've done a few cat poses, what I like to do then is do a little bit of a twist as well. So if you take one hand and thread it between the hand and knee of your other side and see if you can get your shoulder all the way down to the floor. Hopefully you can see me on the floor down here, and then we're going to come up to all fours again and do the other side. So we'll take the other hand and thread it in between the hand and knee, bring your shoulder all the way down, and go flop on the floor like that. Lovely. Let's get back into our hands and knees again. And we've done a cat pose, so now we're going to do a downward facing dog. So let's have our hands in front of us, tuck our toes under, sitting bones backwards towards your feet, and then lift up and do a little bit of a doggy wagtail here, and have a little walk from one foot to the other. So imagine you're taking your dog for a little bit of a walk. And if you've got a boy dog, you'll know exactly how they go to the toilet up lampposts. So they lift one leg in the air, and then lower again, and then do the other leg. Oh, that feels good. Have a little stretch out, and let's get back down on our hands and knees again. Okay, I'm going to walk my hands forwards, and I'd like you to line your tummies with your elbows under your shoulders. So we don't want to have our elbows too far in front, and we don't want them too far back, and we don't want them out to the side. So you've got our elbows under our shoulders, and then see if you can send your shoulders away from your ears, because if your shoulders are up by your ears, it's more like you're watching telly and that you're all relaxed and floppy, but we want to be awake. So send your shoulders away from your ears, and this pose is called Sphinx pose. So if you've ever seen pictures of Egypt, or if you've been to Egypt, it's a really, really old statue, and it's the body of a lion with a head of a person, and his nose has come off. So sometimes when I'm doing this, I try to flatten my nose like that. It doesn't work very well. So this is our Sphinx pose, and we're going to just take our hands back and do Cobra pose. So this is lifting up back more, but I've still got my elbows bent. And when I'm doing cobra, I can have a little look around, and because it's a snaky pose, we can do some hissing. Hiss. So you have a little wriggle from side to side when you're doing your cobra pose. Oh, lovely. So it's quite Egypty, isn't it? Because there's snakes in Egypt as well. Right, we're going to come back onto our elbows, and we're going to be lifting up into something called locust pose. And we're going to start with our arms in front and our heads on the floor. And then if you lift up one arm and the opposite leg and then flop back down again. And then we'll do the other side and back down. So if you find that you're doing the same side, arm and leg, you're going to end up rolling over. So it's got to be opposite. So we're going to lift up one arm and the opposite leg and then lower back down. And then lift up the other side and lower back down. I'm just going to have a little look and see if I'm getting any messages here while you do that. Let's see if this is working. Hello Laura, good to see you. Well, it's good to I'm not seeing you at all, am I? It's nice to know you're watching. Oh, okay. So, when you've done that a couple of times, we're going to try lifting arms and legs up together, but start with your arms by your side. So if you lift up like that, send your fingers to the back of the mat, lift your legs up, and then you can flop back down again. And then you can also have a play around with your arms out level with your shoulders. I haven't got a lot of space on this side, so I hope you've got more room than me. So you can lift up, take your arms out to the side. And that reminds me of when you see people who are parachuting before their parachute's open. They're just falling through the air with their arms out, and they make themselves nice and big so they don't fall too quickly. And then the other thing you can do is reach forwards with your fingers, and that's a little bit more hard work. So if that feels a bit tiring, you can go back to having your arms out to the side or behind you. Got a hello from Alice as well. Hi Alice. Okay, so when you've done lots of back bends like that, it really feels nice to curl up the other way. So let's take our knees in, and we're going to do child's pose. So if you can either put your hands under your head, or if your head will go all the way down to the floor, and hold on to your feet for a minute. And that should feel really nice after you've been doing some back bends. Oh, so if you curl up into child's pose, oh, it's actually made me warm up doing all that. Okay. Right, we're going to do a little bit of a bigger back bend now, but you go with what feels right for your body. So we're going to come back to Sphinx pose, where we've got our elbows under our shoulders, and then if you lift one foot up and reach behind you and hold on to it, and just gently draw the foot towards you. So you're going to feel it stretch down the front of your leg, and then pull the foot back the other way so it pulls you backwards a little bit. Oh, so we pull it towards us and then pull it back, and then we can swap over. So bend the knee, hold on to your foot, pull it towards you, pull it back. If it hurts at all, if it hurts your knee or hurts your leg or your back or your shoulder, then you don't have to carry on. And then what we're going to do, and I always look really silly when I'm doing this, I have to wriggle around. We're going to try and hold on to both feet. So I've got one foot and I've got my other foot. And make sure your knees don't go too wide, and we're going to take the feet out behind us and lift up that way. Whee. Now if that doesn't feel right, you can stick with the locust pose that we were doing before. So have a little play around doing that. So that's called bow pose. When you hold onto your feet and you're on your tummy, that's bow pose. And I love doing that pose. It always feels good, and I love being in a room full of children doing it. So I find children always really like that one. Let me know what you think of bow pose. Oh. And then when you've done bow pose, we can go in the other direction again. So we'll fold ourselves over, hold onto our feet. Oh, that feels nice. Okay. Oh, right, so we've done some back bends on our tummies, we've done some back bends on our hands and knees. We're going to do a couple of back bends on our backs now. So if you lie on your back with your knees on the floor, knees floor. And we're going to start to push into the feet and roll all the way up and then back down again. So we're just leaving the heads and shoulders on the floor. Now sometimes when I do this with children, they lift their shoulders up and end up putting weight on their head, but make sure you keep your shoulders on the floor. So it's your head and shoulders at one end and your feet on the other. Oh, all the way up and all the way down. Now when you next lift up, you might find you can hold onto your ankles and lift up even more. And when I do that, my heels come off the floor. But see if you can keep yours down, as children are always bendier than grown-ups. Oh, that's a nice one. And then when you've done that a few times, you can have a little shuffle around, hold onto your knees. Okay, and then if you want to sit up again, you can have a little rock backwards and forwards. Now, the next pose we're going to do, I know a lot of children do this in gymnastics and they call it bridge pose. Now, in yoga, we call it wheel. For people who do yoga, this is bridge pose and this is a nice straightforward one. But people who do gymnastics call something else bridge. And we're going to have a little go at it now. But if it doesn't feel right, don't keep going. Just have a little try at it, see how you get on with. And I know some of you will just fly up into this pose and it'll look like you could walk down the street like that. So we're going to lie on our backs with our knees bent. Make sure your hair is out of the way. I'm moving my hair so I don't stick my hands on it. And then have your hands underneath your shoulders, elbows up to the ceiling. Push into your feet and lift up. And then if you want to, you can push into your hands and see if you can lift all the way up. Oh, and just see how that feels. And then when you come back down again, hold on to your knees and have a little shuffle around. Oh, so if it doesn't feel right for you, if anything hurts, don't carry on with it. If you're a grown-up doing this, I would normally warm up a lot more when I'm teaching this to grown-ups. So just keep lifting up and down in bridge if you're doing that one. Lovely. Okay, so I'd love to know who likes doing this. We call it wheel pose. Okay, right, we're going to try a different sort of back bend now, which is called camel. We're going to do a couple of different versions of it, and this one's kneeling. So we're going to start with our hands on our hips and send your hips forwards and open up here. So opening up our chests up towards the ceiling, and then we're going to come all the way back down into child's pose. We're going to do that a couple more times. So when you're opening up, if you want to, you can take your head and your arms back, but if it feels wrong, then keep your chin tucked in. And I get very fussy about what people do with their heads. If you take your head back, let your body come up before you lift your head up again, and then you don't strain your neck. Oh, so all the way down, and then all the way up again. Oh, and take your arms back if you want to. So we're warming up for camel pose here. We could say this is a version of camel pose. And then when you next come up, if you open up here and just see if you can hold on to your feet. Now when I do this pose, I can hold on to my feet, but I cheat a bit and I'm not always sure that my legs are upright. So we're not leaning backwards to grab our feet. We're trying to keep our legs upright and see if we can reach back for them. If you can't reach easily, you can either just keep your hands on your hips, or you can have a chair behind you or get a couple of books. So I'm just going to grab a couple of books quickly. I'm lucky I've got a bookcase just here. So when I put some books behind me, I can do a much better camel pose. And again, you can either keep your chin tucked in or take your head back. And if you take your head back, leave it back until you lift your whole body up again. Oh, so we've whizzed through quite a few different back bends there, and when we've done a big back bend like camel pose, we want to come all the way forwards again and tuck up into child's pose so that we're taking our back the other way. Had a message from Alice again saying, I love that pose. So I wonder which one was that wheel pose that you liked, but I like doing that one as well. Oh, okay. Right, so the next one we're going to do, you definitely need lots of space around you. and it's called Wild Thing. And it's a bit like wheel pose, but you come into it from downward facing dog. I just want to check that you'll be able to see the floor. I might just have to change this angle a little bit. There we go. So hopefully you can see a little bit more floor here, because I'm going to flip over from downward facing dog. So I'll show you first and then you can have a go. So we've got our hands in front of the shoulders, tuck the toes under, lifting up into downward facing dog. And then earlier when we were doing this, we were pretending to be a dog going for a wee. So if you lift one leg in the air and just keep taking your foot over, and then if you've got space, you'll be able to flip over, and then you're in Wild Thing pose. And the idea is that when you flip over, you do not sit down. We're trying to keep our arms and legs strong, so we keep our bottoms off the floor. I'm going to go in the other direction so that I can face you when I finish. So it's one leg in the air. Just keep tipping over, keep going, and this is Wild Thing. So my bottom is off the floor, I'm not just sitting down, but if you do sort of spin over and then come to sitting down, that's absolutely fine. Just check you haven't got furniture around you and you've got lots of space to move into. Oh, okay, I'll show you that again, and maybe that'll give you a chance to have a go in each direction. And what's fun, if you've got lots of people in the room with you who are in your bubble, is that you can do a kind of domino thing or a Mexican wave, as long as you've all got space. So when the first person has done their Wild Thing, then the next person does. But you've got to make sure you all decide which leg to do first, so that you all go in the same direction. Because if two people flip towards each other, you end up colliding a bit. So I'm going to just show you one more time, going in the other direction. Whee! I do love that, and then you can flip back to downward facing dog again. Oh. So that's Wild Thing, and it's also called rock star pose, and it makes me think of a rock star on a stage who's just done a big chord on a guitar, who's really showing off. It's all that, yes, I'm here and I'm wonderful, and that's how back bends make us feel. Okay, let's have another stretch out into child's pose again, another curl up in child's pose, but you can stretch your arms out as well. So if you want to stretch your arms out in front, if that makes you feel good, you can do it that way. And then we're going to lie on our backs. Oh. So if you move over onto your backs and hold onto your knees, have a little roll around on the floor. Oh. And then let your knees come down, have your arms out to the side, and we're just going to let both knees flop in one direction, and then bring them back up towards the ceiling, and then flop over the other direction. And we'll do that once more each side again. And then I'd like you to stretch out as long as you can make yourself. So your fingers and your toes are going as far away from each other as possible. Then take both arms and legs over to one side. So they're going in the same direction and you're a kind of banana shape. Ooh. But you're still lying on your back. And then we'll take them the other side. So doing a lovely side bend in each direction. And then back again, nice big stretch out. Oh, bring your knees in again, have one more roll around. And then we're going to come up to sitting. You can either roll to one side or you can have a little roll backwards and forwards. Whee, so that you come up to sitting that way. Right, oh, now I'm starting to cool down again after all that activity. So, if you want to put another layer on, we're going to do a bit of a breathing practice and then we're going to have our relaxation. So, today for our breathing practice, if you get yourself sitting nicely, so you've got both your sitting bones on the floor and you've got a nice tall back, your head is floating up to the ceiling, let your shoulders come up to your ears, oh, let them drop back down again. And we're going to do a breathing practice which is called ocean breath. And what we do is we breathe in through the nose, and when you breathe out, we're going to go shh. And that's it until you run out of breath. And breathe in through your nose, breathe out. And if you've got a few of you in the room, it sounds lovely. It just makes you think of waves on a beach. So it's a soft sound, it's not shh. We're keeping our faces nice and relaxed. And then get yourselves comfy so you can lie down for some relaxation. I'm actually going to read from a book that I've written, which has got lots of relaxations in, which is this one. And the one I'm going to read to you is about sitting under a tree in the rain. As you can see, it's very rainy today. So let yourself get nice and comfortable. If you need a blanket or a cushion or some socks on or another top, then make sure you've got everything you need so that you can lie nice and still. And I'd like you to imagine that you're out playing in a big grassy park. There are trees everywhere of different shapes and sizes. Maybe you've been kicking a ball or cartwheeling. You feel a couple of drops of rain and you pick a tree to shelter under. The tree has big branches thick with leaves and a strong, wide trunk. The ground beneath the tree is dry. Twigs and nutshells crunch beneath your shoes. The tree roots twist into the ground away from the tree, and you notice that two roots seem to form the arms of a comfortable chair. It's as if the tree is inviting you to sit down between the two roots. Sit and lean back against the trunk of the tree. Look up at the branches and thick layers of leaves above you. The rain is pitter-pattering against the leaves, making a soothing sound. You feel protected and warm, as if you could drift off to sleep. The bark digs into your back in a comfortable way. You're completely supported by this tree. When you put your hands down either side, you can feel the roughness of the twigs, some dry leaves, grass and earth. Breathe in the fresh, damp, rainy smell. Breathe out and sink back more against the trunk of the tree. So I'm going to leave you there. You can lie there as long as you want to. I do hope you enjoyed that class this morning. Thank you very much for joining in. Namaste.